Tom, you're on mute.
Sorry about that, everybody. Hey, I just want to welcome everybody here to our webinar. My name is Tom Regan. I'm the Westside Mortgage Manager at Michigan First Mortgage, and I'm sitting in for Dan Sugg, who will be back next month. So we just want to welcome you to our webinar on the home buying process. And before we jump into the meat of it, we have a couple of panel members here today. And with Tony Danka, who is one of our loan officers here at Michigan First, and also Kayla Ibora, who is a real estate agent over at Four Houses. So we'd like to maybe give them just a minute to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit more about who they are. So Tony, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thanks, Tom. How you guys doing? My name is Tony Danka. I've been in the mortgage industry for about 10 years now. I have a passion for what I do. I love helping our members achieve home ownership. I'm available to our members, literally 7 days a week, at any time. Just call. Best way to contact me is my cell phone number. And yeah, we get to the closing table, we celebrate. It's, an achievement for everyone. So.
Great. Thank you for that. And then Kayla, why don't you just take a second to tell us a little bit about who you are?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kayla Ibora with Four Houses Realty. I've been a real estate advisor since 2014, and my passion really comes from seeing my mom going through the whole process herself, and it got me excited to want to help other people be able to achieve the same thing. I'm currently a mom and a wife. I live in Farmington Hills, and I just love what I do as a realtor, and I'm looking forward to being able to increase and help as many families as possible. My goal for next year is to help 50 families. So whether you're here now or watching this playback later, I welcome you to have a conversation with me and seeing how, my services and experiences can be of help.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So just to give everybody a little idea of what our agenda is, you just met our panel. We're going to be talking about the home buying process and how you can make that smoother. And hopefully you'll just pick up some tips and tricks on that. And then at the end, we're going to have some closing remarks and some question and answer. So we're going to jump right into it. So again, we're talking about the home buying process. So Kayla, I'd like to start out with you. The first question is, what are the first steps that someone should take when considering buying a home?
Yeah, the first steps, I believe, is really educating yourself. I always tell my buyers, an educated buyer is the best buyer, for you to understand what the process looks like, who should you have on your team, who should you be connecting with, making sure your financials are in order. So those are some of the first steps that you should be considering.
Awesome. So Tony, I know we work with lenders on with realtors on the lending side quite a bit.
Yeah.
What do you see as the importance of using a real estate agent?
It's very important in using one. And the main reason why is because they negotiate for you on your behalf. They have your best interests. They're very helpful in telling you property values and what makes sense for you. So I find it very important when using a realtor, getting connected with a realtor. And we're a team in making the home buying process as simple as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think that's super important, is they have that good relationship with your real estate agent. So and I think everybody has kind of been conditioned to hear that the first step in home buying is to get pre-approved. And I mean, that may or may not be true, but it's out there quite a bit. And that is one of the first steps. But Kayla, what do you see the significance of having that pre-approval for financing?
I always say the pre-approval gives you the right to play the game of getting out there in the market and being able to be qualified to offer something on a house. So it's very important to the process. There are, and Tony probably could attest to this, is different between pre-qualification and pre-approval. Your pre-approval is like your hard money that's saying, hey, here, I'm qualified to put an offer on this house.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So Tony, maybe you can discuss that a little bit more. What is the significance and importance of that pre-approval?
Yeah, touching back to Kayla's point, the pre-approval allows us to determine where you stand in the, your purchasing power realistically. So we'll look at your credit, we'll look at your income, we'll look at how much you have saved up, and also allows us to see what programs you might qualify for. So that pre-approval allows me to work with you as a member and then work with your realtor and let them know how you're good to go to make an offer on a home you're interested in. So it's very important to make sure you're pre-approved before looking at homes and seeing what's out there.
And so, Kayla, I don't want to throw you the curveball, but I mean, I hear with some of the real estate agents we work with that you really need to have that pre-approval up front, and you tell us, I mean, sometimes sellers won't accept offers without a pre-approval.
Absolutely. I mean, most realtors won't even work with you until, in essence, work with you in the sense of going out to show houses until you have that pre-approval letter. Because again, that is what's going to help you put us in position to be able to be of service to you. I can't really help you if you're not pre-approved by your loan officer that says, hey, this is their budget. You're approved for $250,000. So we want to make sure that we stay within that budget. So it's important to have that because that also determines how we're going to, what houses we look at, what things are important to you in a house, what things can we do? Are we able to put more money down or whatever the case may be? But having that pre-approval letter lets you know your budget, what you're working with, what your monthly payments are going to look like, everything that you need to know to get prepared to actually put in an offer on a house that a home that you might love. And we can't do that without having that piece of document. So it's hard for us to do our job as realtors in assisting you if we don't have that. So it's very important to the process.
Right. Perfect. Couldn't have said it better myself, but it is a very important piece. So thank you for that. Now, and we look at you as you're the event planner and the guided tour person. So what are some of the common mistakes first-time home buyers might be making and how can they avoid those?
Common mistakes is just not being prepared, understanding what the process looks like, not being prepared financially, whether that's, having your credit pulled and like maybe you're right on the border and maybe it has to get pulled again in the process and then that knocks you out of qualification. So being prepared financially is really important, making sure that you have enough money saved for the process. Typically, most people are putting down 3 to 5%. But then you also probably need another 1 to 2% for your closing costs. And then you have your inspection that you need to pay for, and then just moving expenses. When you're moving into a house, you're going to want to get, ADT services. Maybe you want to buy some new furniture. So making sure that you are prepared is the most important thing you do. And a lot of people make the mistake of not being prepared, and then the process becomes a little bit more stressful than it needs to be.
Yeah, we all want to buy new furniture. So
right. I want a new couch to go with the new color paint that I picked on the wall. So, like it's important to make sure that you're prepared in all areas.
Yeah, and I'm going to reiterate that. Some of the things that you mentioned as far as, making sure you have the money saved up for the cash to close that you're going to need, and your credit, even people that have good credit. There's a statistic in the industry that about 33% or about a third of the people out there have errors on their credit report. So even though you might have great credit, there can still be errors out there that you might need to be aware of and take care of before you can buy a home. So it's always good to do that ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, hey, Tony, what's the timeline that we're looking at to do a home purchase? So, Kayla just kind of brought us through some of the things that she's doing and helping people through. So what's that timeline look like?
Really, timelines vary, honestly. I've worked with members that we've found a home and closed within 30 days. Some members might not be ready to buy a home right away. There's things we need to work on. I have members that get pre-approved a year later. The timeline really depends on if you're pre-approved, and then the home market, what's out there that works for you and your family. So from the moment that Kayla puts an offer in, or any realtor that makes an offer and it gets accepted to closing, usually about 30 days. But as far as getting pre-approved, if you're pre-approved and you have a paper and then Kayla shows you homes there's really no timeline as far as I can tell you, hey, you're going to close it within 3 months or 2 months. It's really just depends on what's out there and what makes sense for you.
Right. And I think it's very important to, when Tony works with the buyers, that he gives them a list of documentation that you need, and to get that documentation as quick as possible is really helpful, because that speeds the process along, very much. So, Kayla, so we've kind of heard, you brought them out, looked at a home, the financing is done. So what's that closing process look like? What should they be, people be prepared for at the closing?
Yeah, I actually have a document that I prepared that I'm willing to share with anyone. All you have to do is email me, just say process or timeline, and I will send you this timeline that I put together based on my experience and what I've seen for buyers of what it looks like from the day you sit down and have your consultation with, your loan officers like Tony, and then what it would look like when you speak to me, then some filling out paperwork, to documents, to showing houses, the negotiation process, then your inspection, and then you move into, once you pass your inspection, all the documents that you're doing with your loan officer. At that point, he pretty much takes over. And then once we get the what's called clear to close, then we're at the closing process. And once we get clear to close, like, that's the exciting time, because we've made it through all the documents. You've done your inspection, the house is good, they approved all your paperwork, and now we can choose a date to close on the house. Now, what's really important that everyone should know, anytime you purchase a home, 24 to 48 hours before your closing date, you have the right to walk through the house one more time to make sure that everything is still the same as you last remembered it. Because that process from getting your offer accepted to closing date could be 30 days, could be 45 days, could be 60 days since you've seen the house. So we want to make sure that everything is good with the home. And then if not, then we address those points before we sign any documents, because at that point, you're responsible for that home. Now you're the homeowner and have not seen the house in 60 days. That can cause some issues. So we want to prevent that by making sure that we walk through the house one last time. And then we have our closing date. And so that's when I will meet with you at closing with the title company. Tony, for example, will be in the background, making sure everything is good to go, send everything over to the title company. The title company that will be there with you to sign all of your documents. And as a buyer, it's a lot of documents. I'm not gonna lie. It's probably a 30-minute process of getting through all your documents. You make sure you bring your check for whatever you're supposed to bring, or sometimes it's a wired amount. If it's over 10,000, you have to wire the money in. If it's under 10,000, you could bring a cashier's check, personal check to the closing written out for what you need to bring for your closing costs and your down payment. You bring your ID, and so they can verify you are the person that's buying the house. We sign all the documents and you get your key. So typically that's how it looks at closing day, and what the kind of like the closing process looks like. So it's a high level overview. But again, if you email me, I will send you that document that pretty much breaks down that timeline.
Great. Thank you for that. So we kind of did the speed dating thing from, all the way, how did we start to closing? So let's back up a little bit. During the process, you're showing people homes, you find one, you make an offer. Usually people do home inspections, right? So Kayla, what should people expect during the home inspection? And how would you interpret those reports when they come in?
The home inspection, this is how I say it. Okay, guys, you listening? We are looking for elephants, not ants. Understand that no home is perfect. It could be a new construction home and it still is not perfect. There's still going to be things that you find. So the goal is to look for things that, obviously are really high ticket things, like a roof needs a full replacement. The foundation is literally crumbling or not in good, standard of what we would expect for a foundation. The windows, all the windows are so old, all the windows need to be replaced. So big ticket items like that, that's what we're looking for. But small things like, you know, an electrical outlet needs to be replaced, or maybe there is, you know, of the flooring in one room is carpet and the other one is wood. And that's just a preference. Cosmetic things we can change. So that is the biggest thing that we look for when we do inspections. And my goal always is if there's anything that's really big, that's an opportunity for us to negotiate.
Yeah.
That gives us some room to possibly be able to get you some money towards your closing costs, or maybe the seller can repair it, or maybe we can go half and half on the repair. But it lets you know everything about the house, from the roof to the basement to the sewer line as well. You know, I always recommend, if you can pay a little bit extra, get the sewer line camera. They'll do a camera. They'll see if there's any cracks in the lines. And for example, I had a client, she opted to get the sewer line inspected, and they ran the camera and saw that the sewer line was cracked from the middle of the yard all the way across the street into the neighbor's yard.
Yeah.
That was an extra $100 that she's paid for that inspection, and that saved her $40,000, because that could be very expensive, because now you got to cut up the street, and then you have to ask the neighbor, are you good with me cutting up your yard a little bit? So it's important to make sure you have that inspection, so you can know what you're walking into.
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. And, you know, just to kind of let everybody know, this is what a good real estate agent does. I mean, they, you know, inform you of what you should be looking for and help you get the people, the third parties in there that can help make those decisions and give you, you know, a determination on what the house looks like. So, Tony, that's a little bit about inspection. So how does that differ from having an appraisal done?
Absolutely. So an appraisal is the value of your home and what you're buying it and what it's worth. So home inspection is the mechanics, making sure everything, you know, is to your standard and to your liking. An appraisal is required by the lender to make sure the home you're buying, for example, if you're purchasing a home for $250,000, they do comparables in the area, see what's sold, square footage, everything, that it reaches that $250,000. If an appraisal comes in lower than $250,000, for example, you're buying a home for $250,000, say it comes in at $240,000, that's when Kayla comes in and tries to renegotiate on your behalf. You know, a realtor says, hey, this home's only worth $240,000. Here's the appraisal report that came in, and you would submit an offer for $240,000. If an appraisal comes in higher than your purchase price, for example, $260,000, doesn't matter. You got value in your home. You still buy for $250,000. You don't have to come up to the $260,000 mark. So there is a difference between, there are two different fees involved. We highly recommend getting a home inspection, and an appraisal is required on every purchase that a lender is involved in.
Right. Perfect. And yeah, maybe even to add on to that, we do say that the appraiser goes out and does an inspection, but it's not the inspection that Kayla was talking about. They're looking at it, the appraiser's looking at the home for financing purposes to see if there's any health or safety issues that would need to be dealt with. But it's not really an inspection to give you what is the condition of this home. You know, that's the home inspection that Kayla was talking about earlier. So that's a good determination, or a good thing to know, that the inspection is really more for the appraisal inspection is more for the financing part versus the home inspection. So Kayla, maybe to move on, how can we make an offer, or how can somebody make an offer that stands out in a competitive market? You know, how can a real estate agent help with that?
Yeah, well, you have to really be good at negotiating as a realtor. It's important that you have someone that's not afraid to speak up on your behalf, and understanding what is important for the seller, and understanding what's important for you, so we can figure out what offer makes the most sense, as well as understanding the value of that particular home. And then also working really hand in hand with your lender, because you never know, maybe Tony could get you approved a little bit more. If we need to go up in purchase price, maybe there's something that, you know, he can do to help us out to make the offer stronger. But a couple of things you can do, obviously, is raise the purchase price if it makes sense. And I always tell buyers, don't be afraid of that, because the bank is going to save you in a sense. They're never going to allow you to pay more than the value of the property. So it's okay in certain scenarios where it makes sense to maybe offer a little bit more than asking price. It all depends on really how bad you want the house, right? Another thing you could do that's common, that was really common a couple of years ago, and sometimes it still is now, are appraisal guarantees. It could be complicated to understand, but the short of it is, say you offer $100,000 on a house, and that house appraises for, like Tony spoke to, 90,000. That is now a $10,000 gap for that seller that they were not anticipating. So you as the buyer can say, hey, to help make up for that gap, I'll do an appraisal guarantee of $2,000, right? So that now comes out of your pocket additionally to your closing. So that is something that you could do to help be able to make your offer stronger. Some sellers like that if money is a very important thing for them. And then just depending on really trusting your realtor and hoping that, you put your best foot forward. And as long as you can sleep at night with the offer that you put in, anything that happens outside of that, you can be proud of, regardless of what the result is.
Right. Yeah. So perfect. And again, maybe just to reiterate a little bit of that or add to that, I know sometimes the sale price or just the money piece of it is not always the hot button for the seller, right? I mean, sometimes they need to be out right away, or sometimes, so if you're a pre-approved and you have your financing all set up and you're able to close quickly, that sometimes is a benefit to you, that you can close quicker than the next guy. Or maybe they have a home that they're building and they need another 90 days for that to be done. Yeah. So if you can be flexible on some of those things in the offer, that the possession date, and you're talking appraisal gaps, and that sometimes it's not always just the money, right? It's other things as well. So
True,
awesome.
absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for that. So Tony, how can our members help make their financing go through smoothly, so that we can get them to closing quicker?
Absolutely. So once our members are pre-approved and they're with Kayla shopping around looking at homes, there are some do's and don'ts that we highly recommend, and we go over with our members. Do pay your credit cards on time and your bills on time. Keep employment. If anything changes, please let us know. Don't run your credit. Don't make any large purchases. These are big things because once you're pre-approved, I've pre-approved you in that moment at where you were, financially and what you're doing. If anything does change, it is important to let me or Kayla know so we can adjust accordingly. So as far as making sure everything goes smoothly, just listen to what we say as far as like the do's and don'ts, because those are, we don't want you to buy your furniture before you close on the home and you finance that furniture, because it could kill the deal. And there's a lot of things that can play.
Right. And I think we've all seen that
nightmare stories.
Well, yeah, I mean, people think, going into, a department store and just putting appliances on a layaway.
Yeah.
That's actually opening up new credit. Your credit is run, and that's a new credit item. So that can be a problem when we get to closing. So I mean, some of those things you're saying, taking a new job, and that as we approve somebody as a snapshot in time, if that has changed over the last 30 or 45 days, then those changes really need to be documented and reapproved. So yeah, thank you for that. So I mean, we're coming close to the end of our time, but I wanted to give each of you time to say, what are the 3 things that you think our members on the call today really need to take away? What are the three biggest things that you think they need to come away with? So Kayla, why don't you go ahead and do that?
So they're right here. Understanding your budget and get pre-approved is very important to the process that I want you guys to be able to take away from this. Educating yourself. The best buyer is an educated buyer. So understanding what that home buying process looks like. Again, you can reach out to me and I'll send you the timeline, and that kind of breaks down what that home buying process looks like from the beginning to the end. And then working with professionals, building out a strong team, you know, having a great loan officer that is responsive. Like if we need something changed or updated, he's picking up or she's picking up the phone. I can attest that Tony does a great job with that. Having a great realtor that understands the market, that understands your needs and your wants and putting you first is very important. And then making sure they have great connections, because there's other people they'll connect with you during the process, whether that be an inspector, whether that be a contractor, whether that be, you know, a cleaning lady, whatever the case may be. But having those people in place are very, very, very important to the home buying process.
Absolutely.
Perfect. No, thank you so much for that. Tony, I mean, if we had to throw it over to you, what are the three main tips or things you
Yeah.
think people need to know?
Understanding your credit and your credit score is very important. And a lot of times, you know, some of our members might not be where they're at, but I'll help them understand how to get there, or, you know, what we can do as a team to figure it out. So don't feel discouraged if you're not at where you're at, or if I tell you, hey, you're not pre-approved yet, but these are ways we can get you there. It happens all the time. Don't feel discouraged. Home ownership is a possibility for everyone. Down payment and savings. Saving, you know, Michigan First takes part in a lot of grant programs, down payment assistance programs. You know, I can go over that with you guys and how much you need to save. We can look at, you know, 401k. You can tap into that if you need it. You know, tax return money helps out a lot. There's ways we can figure out a way to get you in the right place to get you pre-approved. And then what is your budget? Figure out what you're comfortable paying monthly. You don't want to overpay on a home that you really can't afford. So you just want to, we'll talk budget. We'll figure it out. You know, some people will say, I can spend $1,500. And what does that look like? Including your property taxes, your homeowner's insurance, something called PMI. I'll go over all that with you. Kayla and I are a team. I love working with her. She's been amazing. Every member I've sent her way, she's been responsive. We get deals done. We get closed on deals. So reach out to us. We're here to help you guys.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Great tips.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say as we're, excuse me, as we're starting to wrap up, I see that there's questions in the chat. I know Zarina has been answering those, but if you do have any other questions, you know, put them in the chat and we'll definitely get back with you. You know, either Tony or Kayla can do that for us. You know, we just want to thank you for being here. And we just want to say also that, you know, that we're here. We have our information here on the screen that you can contact us either by website or our 800 free, the free 800 number. If you want to talk to Tony or any of other lenders, that is all available. Kayla's information is here too, so please take that down. And if you have any questions, I'm sure she would be happy to answer those for you. And then we also want to talk about Michigan First Insurance. We have an insurance company here for our members, and they can assist in almost any insurance you want, more than just homeowners insurance. There's pet insurance, auto insurance, and just basically any type of, you know, property casualty insurance that you need, we can help with. So if you have any needs, we would love to give you a quote with that. And also we should have the website up here for any questions that you might have. We have a lot of previous seminars that have went over a lot of different topics, and you can access those at our website here to look at those previous webinars as well. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much. Kayla, Tony, you know, thank you for being here, answering the questions, helping people out.
Yeah.
We appreciate that. And then everybody on the call, thank you for sharing your lunch hour with us, and we hope to see you next month. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good one.